And as we're getting into a conversation this morning, it's one that is important. It's one that has happened, and we don't actually give as much attention to it. When we hear about bullying, we think about it in the context of children at school and what should be done and how it should be handled by their parents. We don't ever take that conversation to what may possibly happen at the workplace, where we assume that adults should be able to take care of themselves emotionally. And, if somebody's bullying you, I can tell you, CT, get out, leave me alone. But actually, very, very different. And to help us out with that conversation this morning is executive coach and speaker, certified Genos emotional intelligence practitioner, Mary Mukindia. Good morning.
Good morning, too.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Asante, first time here, so a little nervous, but actually delighted to be here. You are the biggest conversation.
Trust me, you'll be fine.
Thank you. Especially
after CT Muga puts you to work. CT goes to a different African country every week. Don't ask me how he does it, of how he does it. And he comes back every week with a basket full of proverbs from that particular country. So he's going to tell us what country we're in, and he's going to give you the proverb. And the work that you will do is that you will interpret that for us and tell us how or what you would think of that. Is that okay?
Okay, that's great.
All right.
We are in the Gabonese Republic. Gabon is in Central Africa, but people tend to think it is in West simply because where it's actually situated, you could actually assume it is in West Africa, but it isn't.
Oh, okay.
Yes. It belongs to an infamous geopolitical region called the Okoh Belt. The name suggests and states a lot. Okoh Belt, that's a region that is known for the prevalence of coups. Yes, yeah. One after another, after another. And for good reasons, because coups don't just happen because people like coups. They happen because people are unhappy.
Yes, absolutely.
And the ones who are able to do so are also unhappy, so they express their displeasure by asking whoever it was who was elected to sort of like move aside. That is, of course, the best case scenario. The other scenarios which are not good. Now, the proverb, simple, straightforward proverb for a Friday. Bad friends will prevent you from having good friends. Isn't it simple?
Yes, I like that one. Sometimes you are very tough ones. Bad friends prevent you having good ones.
Yes.
Yeah, because I guess they talk about, birds of a feather flocking together.
Yes.
And you do what is around you. You absorb what is around you. That's why we're told to keep our minds pure. So I guess if you have bad friends, the good ones will keep away because they don't want to be tainted with that. I think that's what it interprets to me, to be very careful about the company we keep.
Yes.
Because we may not be bad ourselves, but we'll be influenced, or others will think.
We'd have to ask this question. What makes a friend bad? How does somebody who's my friend suddenly become bad? What is it about them that is seen as bad? Because if I have them as a friend, I clearly don't see the bad.
Yeah.
But other people do.
Activities they're involved in, behavior they might have every now and then.
Yeah.
That could get you in trouble as well, perhaps.
Yeah. They may not even have your best interest, but you think they have your best interest.
They may not necessarily be a bad person, but they behave in some untoward manner.
You speak like someone who's had bad friends.
What?
Dennis hasn't said a word.
At least I'm speaking.
Dennis,
I'm a good listener.
I think he has got very many bad friends.
Not really, it's at times it's good to listen.
It's good to listen sometimes.
Well, I mean, we're getting into the conversation this morning, and I just have to say that, so my mother watches this show in Nigeria, and she's just sent me a message, and I said, you know what? Your guest looks like Onyeka Onwenu, who's an icon of Nigerian and art and music, who passed last year.
Wow.
And you look exactly like her. So I just had to put that there. So later, Google her and you see some of the stuff that she did.
Are they called doppelgangers?
Exactly. You could be her
I'm going to Google her.
You need to Google her and listen to some of her music and see some of the things that she did. So that was just interesting that she did.
Say
and I looked at you. Well, she's heard you. So, Mum.
They actually do.
Mary says hi. You can see the picture. You actually look just like her.
Shit.
See, have you not seen her?
I agree. I even have a green dress. I have a picture like that. I've sent you.
You've seen yourself, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so Mommy, Mary says hi. And getting into this conversation this morning, And you talked about just looking at your title, and one of the things that you said here is that you're certified GENOS emotional intelligence practitioner. And as we get into this conversation, I want to know, what's a GENOS emotional intelligence practitioner? What's GENOS?
Yeah, GENOS is an Australian company. It's probably not one of the biggest in the world when it comes to the area of emotional intelligence, but it's certainly one of the most effective. So they are practitioners, they do their research, they have their own model, and most of the models are about the same. When they talk about Coleman emotional intelligence, the US one, which is a huge one, they have received numerous awards throughout the world. So there's a franchise for Eastern Africa, in fact, even for West Africa, and that company is called Profiles International. They have the franchise to train people to become emotional intelligence practitioners, and we in turn help people understand what is emotional intelligence. It's one of the basic leadership skills that people don't even think about. When we hear the word emotional, we think it's to do, with emotions, with nicey, sympathy. But actually, human beings are emotional creatures. We make decisions based on our feelings of our emotions. They determine how we behave. They determine how we feel, and out of that feeling, we then express a certain behavior, and that behavior leads to action. So understanding emotional intelligence, really, if I was to summarize it, to say how I show up determines how you do feel about me. And how you feel about me determines how much you're going to engage with me. And that determines everything about that relationship. So if I show up calm, I show up reasonable, I show up listening, I show up with empathy, I give you time, I get your perspective, you will react to me in a certain way. If I show up angry, always angry, impatient, what's wrong with you? I don't even want to listen. People back away, they say, okay, that you already know. They don't even engage with you. So we have people who are very good at emotional intelligence. They're very calm. They're able to be empathetic. They're authentic. They're able to control their emotions, to manage. They have reasoning. Even if they're feeling the emotion, they're able to put distance between the action and say, okay, you've annoyed me. I'm annoyed. It's a valid emotion.
Sure.
But then how do I react? Because how I react and how I show up is very important to the way you will now react to me. And yet I need you to work with me. I need to achieve certain goals through you. Because employees and staff, leaders work through people. They can't do the work. And those people will engage with you and deliver for you depending on how you treat them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what it is.
That's what it is. Yeah. And that's what now becomes practice.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So even giving the rider to this, that when we hear bullying, often, you think about school age children. And that has been front and center of how we attach the thought, the action around bullying. Children coming home telling their parents, well, so-and-so has done this, or those who've been notorious bullies. Or even if you hear about them in adulthood and somebody says, well, immediately, that guy used to be a bully, he bullied us, or this girl used to really bully us in school. But usually it's attached to that age group.
It is.
You know, and parents and teachers have to intervene or not intervene. People have had emotional trauma later on in their life as a result of what has happened at that age, right? But now here we are talking about bullying in the workplace. Please explain this phenomenon.
Actually, I would call it is a silent epidemic at the workplace because it's about power. It's about relationships. And it's a very silent epidemic. It's powerful, it's pervasive, and it's not even seen. I was bullied, but I didn't even know I was being bullied when I was CEO working with government. I had a very tough PS. I think you remember him. Over 20 years. We were cat and dog, but we had to work together. And this is somebody who would call me at 6:30 in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, 8:30 at night. So there are very many forms of bullying. And at the top, at executive level, at the board level, it happens in churches, it happens in ministries, it happens in governments. Let me give you an example. Global. You also what happened in the White House with President Zelensky.
Yes.
Was that bullying?
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Power. You can see somebody absolutely being bullied. So sometimes people don't, because it can be threats to your professional status. It can be, sarcasm. It can be people denying resources. You're not invited to meetings. You need some other things to do. You're put down in front of your juniors. You're excluded. You're overworked. I know people have clients who cry. The phone rings, they start shaking. Company secretary working for the board and the CEO. With a 5-year-old child, they're called at home at night, 10 o'clock at night. Early in the morning, where are those documents? What's wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. So they shake. When the phone rings, you just start shaking because you know what you will get. Where do you complain to at those senior levels? When it's happening in the boardrooms in ESCO at senior levels. Yeah? What do you do about when people are destabilizing you and sabotaging you? They shift the goalpost. You're supposed to deliver this. No, what happened? What's wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. So goalposts are shifted. There's psychological manipulation. So in the end, you start losing confidence. You start going, you know why people say it's like you've been rained on?
Yeah, you shrink.
You find people, you start dressing different because you know. And there's different ways. There are people who are screamers. There are people who actually scream. There are people who are critic. They find fault in everything, every day. Every day, this, And
Why did you breathe left?
Why are you breathing? I remember when we were kids, we used to sleep with my sister when visitors came. Yeah. And you have to share a bed and then you're hit with the elbow. Stop breathing. Now, how do you stop breathing? Because you're breathing down the neck. Can you imagine in an office? You're a senior person. And you know they have the power because they handle your performance contract. This is about your job. It's about your family. It's about your car. It's about your house. You put a foot wrong, you've seen people being sacked. So what do? You keep quiet. You take it in. And people then get unproductive. People not creative.
Now, when we talk about bullying at workplaces, you've mentioned it directly that it affects the productivity and the results at the end of the day. And one would assume that at any given workplace, there are ways to operate. There are policies, HR policies that are put in place. Yeah. And you find that despite these policies being there, you find a senior still overruling all the policies in place and still looks down and goes down on the employee. So where do they go when they look at there is a HR policy, but still my senior is overriding all that? So where do you go to?
They just get PTSD, trauma. There's even cases of heart attacks, and most times people leave. They become non-performers because at that senior executive level, HR will not help you. They'll not go and talk to the CEO. Who tells the CEO is a bully? Or the chairman of the board? Or the directors? Or the head of banking? Or the head? So people tend to swallow it. And you don't want to admit you're being bullied at the level you are. How do you come and say you're bullying me? You so senior, Mary, look at you, da-da-da-da. How can you tell us you're being bullied? So you try and avoid those situations.
Should you though?
You can challenge and face it if you have the courage, but it's very difficult if you're alone. And the idea is, how do you change that culture? Yes. There are companies with really good values and cultures, and they practice it, and they call out that behavior from the top. But when it's coming from the top, it's very hard to be alone to challenge. Because what happens with a bully, other people are witnessing the bullying. They're also traumatized by the stay away because they're afraid for their job. Sometimes there's even one who's watching, who's a silent watcher, but doesn't say anything because they don't want to put themselves at risk. Sometimes it becomes even a group thing. They laugh when he cracks a joke. Today you fired as a style, and look at that hair. And they're demeaning you in front of others. Because even people, there's a control freak, people who micromanage you. Has any of you worked in a place where you were micromanaged?
Yes.
Until you're just wanting to go crazy, you're being told even how to rule it. Yeah. There are people who sabotage you, they set you up for failure. They shift the goalposts. Or some who are narcissists, they take credit for success. They blame others for the failure. What are you going to do? And usually these people are very good at manipulating how people see them. There are many countries where they've actually legislated and come up with acceptable codes of conduct. Kenya hasn't. It's actually something that's being worked on because it's not in the labor law, it's not in the harassment.
Right.
You're talking about sexual harassment, you're talking about, diversity. But this habit, why would somebody start texting you at 8 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock and expect you to reply the email?
And don't we see such, and that's not the first time that we hear about things like that. That, somebody, you can wake up in the morning at 5 o'clock and see a flurry of messages that have come in before and somebody's demanding an answer. Yeah. Or somebody asks that I've sent you an email 3 minutes ago and you've not responded to me. Or it's after hours you get something like that. many would argue that it's the person who is giving you the pressure is also feeling the pressure. They get that pressure, and then that is what comes down to you. And that what may appear to be somebody bullying you, they normally say it's not personal. It's not. It's not. I mean, I don't hate you. I don't know you from Adam. It's work, and it needs to be done, and we're going to do the work and go. How do you separate then, Mary, between work pressure and what needs to happen, and somebody actually taking things out on you and attacking your persona?
I think one of the things we teach in emotional intelligence is being able to create boundaries, and being able, the question you're asking then is to be self-assertive, but in a polite but respectful way, but genuinely saying that I'm sorry, like I'm working with my kids doing homework, I will come back to you in the morning when I'm available. And you're very firm about it. Most of the time we are scared. What will happen to me if I say that? Because even I stopped taking those early morning calls at 6:30 in the morning, or 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night. You're calling me to talk for half an hour. So I'd say, I don't pick the phone. When I'm saying, why didn't you pick up my phone? I say, I was with my husband, I was cooking, or I was with the children. Of course I'm not. But it's to try and get through to your mind. Why are you coming to me on my private time? The US legislated about people calling you, giving you work coming after 5. You can actually sue them. They tried to pass it through Parliament here. Yes, they did. And then there was a lot of things. What about shift workers, airport workers? So the whole thing went round and round, and it's still somewhere in some stage. But people had brought a law to be able to say, don't call people. It's I've only contracted you for 8 hours. It's a buy and sell relationship. You have 8 hours, 12 hours. After that, I'm not a slave. You can't expect to send emails at 10 and I reply. So being able to set those boundaries and say, I hear you, I see that you need that, but I'm sorry, I will come back. Or you put automatic. People are actually deleting emails from their phones, their work emails. Don't carry your laptop home, don't open it, and every day you set up a thing saying, I'm out of office until tomorrow morning, if I will look at your item in the morning. But actually being able to talk to the person direct and say, I'm sorry, it's my private time, I will attend that first thing in the morning. Hopefully if there's somebody who is in a leadership mode who understands, you say, oops, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize. And then they will push the pressure back. Because if you don't push and you always accept, you'll be pressurized, you'll be traumatized, you'll be stressed throughout. And it's not good for you to be always in a stressful situation. You are not productive.
But what is it that singles out individuals who have a predisposition to bullying? What is their psychological makeup? What is this thing that they have that other people don't have? Because bullies are in a minority. It's not as though they form the bulk of the people we come across. Because if they were the bulk, then bullying would be normalized. Everybody would be a bully in one way or the other. But that's not the case.
I think it's more prevalent than we know. But there is a certain, and I'm happy that you've asked that, because I was looking at it, and yesterday actually I saw there's something called the successful psychopath problem. In 2005, some British psychologists, Belinda Board and Katrina Fritzon, they studied high-level executives and found that they had certain personality disorders, 3 out of 8, that were more common in them than in criminal psychiatric patients. True fact.
No, that has been said.
That has been said. Okay,
not just psychopathic. Some have been sociopathic.
Sociopath, yes.
That they have a certain leaning and tendency that gives them the ability to focus on things, and they are distracted and they exclude everything else.
Yes.
And one of the things that they lack is empathy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So there are people who rise to the very top because of that very trait.
Trait of focus, intent. They don't care about any other feelings.
They do not.
They have a very superficial charm, manipulation, and insincerity.
Yes.
Narcissistics obviously as well. They have this exploitation of
very, very self-centered.
And some of them are obsessive personalities who are perfectionists, control, rigidity. Those type of people actually succeed. If they're not criminal, some of them will go towards criminal, they succeed and rise up very, very quickly. They
actually succeed a great deal in corporate setups.
Yes, yes.
Where performance is considered to be the key beyond anything else.
Thank you.
So long as you are doing good by the organization and you're making them money, these are things that you do, nobody really cares about.
Yes.
So then essentially we're saying that that position then is perfect feeding ground for them to treat anybody badly.
Oh, yes.
You got it. You got it. In fact, what you say about performance, and that's why there's been a more evolved thinking in the workplace that, getting results is not everything. Because these people are not happy. Look at what happened in Boeing. You've seen that Netflix movie, The Downfall.
Yes.
And that came from people not feeling psychologically safe to say what was going on. Everybody knew what was going on. The FAA knew what was going on. The quality people, the engineers, but you talk, boop, you're out. You try whistleblow, what happened to them? So there's this culture of fear that everybody knows what's going on, but you say, me, my children, my house, my school fees. So what happens, it perpetuates itself, and superficially, the company that looks like it's doing well. But over time, there's no creativity, there's no innovation, because innovation, creativity lies at the highest level of psychological safety, where you can challenge people and say, why do you do it that way? No, let's try it another way. But you find that some companies, nobody challenges the way things are done. They say, good, yes, sir, we agree. So over time, these people can be so successful, get the highest bonus, and then leave. And they continue being, separated, and everybody else, the company is not moving over a longer time. So that's why now companies are working at building a culture. And they're saying, what are our cultures? Respect, how we talk to people. And they take conscious effort and teach their leaders about emotional intelligence, about having empathy, about being vulnerable, because you want to inspire people. Some companies are getting better at it, but still is very old school, because the reward of the performance system is individual based as opposed to team based.
So do you need a host for this behavior? And when I say host, I don't mean somebody who's, I mean like kind of like what the mosquito does with, the human. Is this person born with this behavior, or is it learned along the way? Do you need a host situation whereby this is results driven, it is, performance oriented, it's being tracked, and this person with their tendencies has found, again, the perfect breeding ground for this behavior to be perpetuated? So do you need that in order or is this person just naturally a nasty piece of work?
I think it's a bit of both. There are people who are naturally like that. And also, if you don't have good, clear policies and statements and a strong HR and a strong system that censors that from the very top, if the top is encouraging it or doesn't seem to do anything about it, and the workplace becomes so competitive for results that you're stepping on each other and hitting elbows because it's all towards grandiose, the top man, the top CEO, and you start praising him, it will continue.
There's also the element that people who exhibit these traits have. It's a need to compensate.
Yeah, it will be copied.
Because you see two things here. One, if I'm inadequate in one way, as a human being, I'll want to compensate for my inadequacy. I know this because I went to a secondary school where bullying was normal. It was part and parcel of the culture.
Yeah. Never censored.
So one got to understand what was accepted bullying. Some people call it hazing. And then there are people who really went overboard.
Yes.
And I know, as I speak now, there are people who have not, God knows how long have never forgiven the people who bullied them. Never.
Yeah.
In fact, when you speak about those people,
the emotions.
It's like it happened 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Some, you fear what would happen if they'd met that person in the dark.
Yeah.
Okay? It means they were traumatized into adulthood, and people who are my age are grandparents. So it is that bad. It lasts. But the question has to be asked, what is it that drives an individual to cause so much harm to other people?
To another.
What damage have you gone through? I mean, what is it that you have in your life that is unresolved?
And would you find that such an individual later on in life most probably had those tendencies when they were younger?
Yeah, trauma. Trauma is learned, and then you go and practice it on somebody else.
You see, the thing about socializing,
and nobody teaches you better.
What it does, it rubs off some of these sharp edges from you. Education does that for you. Because you intermingle and meet with them. A workplace is supposed to
and you're censored where you go.
You will be.
Yeah.
Because you meet other people. Now, social media and the internet has been blamed on this account, that it enables an individual to find like-minded individuals So they don't have to socialize with anybody else. They just look for people who think like them, who have a worldview of the same. So the check and balance that ordinarily mixing with other people would provide is then eliminated.
Yeah.
As well as we talk about it, what is the factor that enables this to continue is what I'm looking at, in the sense that there's a damaged parent who has treated their children in a way that is considered to be bullying from that point. The kid picks that up, goes to school, and repeats what they've learned from home, and that as well is encouraged by teachers who are in one. Because I remember back in high school, I was slapped by a fellow student because they were a prefect, and I called them out. I went home, I came back with a cop. P3,
Wow.
it works.
Wow. Wow.
And I was considered to be a student who's going against.
Yes, the rebel. You're not
against
conforming.
the school. The school rules. So if you look at these individuals, they're damaged, and then they're again given powers at school level, and they go forward to even become a KDF officer, a damaged student, all the way to being
But
an
then
officer.
let's consider the role that culture plays in this. Look at the way certain cultures treat women.
Yes.
A young child is taught certain things. As far as they're concerned, there's nothing wrong with what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's that interaction later on in life that introduces them to a different way of looking at the same thing. There are people who disregard other human beings. For instance, look, forget the power dynamics between men and women. Even the power dynamics between communities.
Communities, yeah.
There are communities who think they're better than other people.
Yes.
True.
And they will bully them.
Or they'll disregard. Now you see, so they come to a workplace. Remember, we're talking about bullying. It's not just physical.
No.
Verbal. Emotionally. So you find that this person goes about doing this until the day they are challenged or they understand that this is not acceptable. They will continue.
One of the questions that we've seen coming in this morning, even as we continue in this conversation, is what about bullying from your peers? That people treat you the way that you allow them to. If you stand up to somebody, the likelihood of them coming at you decreases. But if you take on a mouseish behavior, and somebody who may have nothing over you but sees your mouseish behavior is likely to bully you more. And this is more in the workplace as adults. How and why?
Absolutely. I think there's some basic behaviors we have as human beings. We like to be dominant. They're the experts, the ones who are saying the psychopaths, psychopaths and narcissists. As a practice as human beings, I always think I'm better than everybody else. I can do this. So if allowed, anarchy can come if there are no rules, systems, structures. And therefore, with bullies, but we don't know this until we know better. If they're bigger than you, they have more power than you, or they can laugh at you and you don't have a quick response, you tend to withdraw into yourself, which gives them more power. But actually, as you were saying, Siti, most bullies have something that happened to them. They have some inadequacy in them. When you stand up to them and you face them, many times they will back away and you're not the one to be bullied. And they seem to find the person who has something, in them that is bullied, and then everybody descends with that person. So it is true, you do need to stand up, but where do we get the courage sometimes? Maybe it's a shouting match. You're not a red personality who's loud, you're a quieter person. You think of what to do afterwards. How do you handle that? And that's why it's really important for institutions to have policies, to have cultures, to have the signal from the top, to train leaders on what is real leadership. It's not command and control, because it's the authoritarian type of leadership that people think that is what true leadership is. It's about you harnessing, leading teams. You're just a leader, you're inspiring you, they do the work. And what is acceptable behavior, what is not, and censoring them. And having reporting systems that are actually taken seriously. But if there's an absence of that and it's condoned from the top or at the expense of performance, then people are afraid and they'll just keep quiet, withdraw, and then you see people leaving.
But doesn't that often happen, though, Mary, that in as much as somebody may bully you as an individual, the likelihood of others who are at par with them on the same level, because we're still in the workplace here, that are on the same level as them or even higher, are also likely to hear what they say. So even if you bring, and this is the fear of a lot of folks, that even if you bring an issue like that forward, the likelihood of you being believed or something being done in your favor is reduced, because that attitude that bully takes towards you is also the same attitude that they take toward anybody else who might intervene in a
Yes.
situation. So how do you handle that?
And as well,
Honestly, I don't have all the answers. I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely.
We can discuss it, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Dennis, you want to say something?
No, looking at a situation where there is bullying, say, in the leadership structure from top all the way. Your immediate boss, is a bully. Their boss is a bully and goes all the way
To the board.
Where do you go to? Because most of the time you find you get to keep quiet.
I know a bank.
Someone else, you find high turnover is high.
That's a
At
chain of some really insecure people.
City, you know a bank.
Goodness.
You know
But
a
it
bank.
happens.
And even if we don't talk about it, it happens all the
You
time.
know,
There's
City,
a bank
it
and it
happens.
starts from the...
And you
from
find
exactly.
others record it. You record it. But where do you take that information? Because as you say, Kenya does not have a policy that addresses this. Do I die with my problems? Do I walk away from work? How do I deal with my
Dennis,
bills that I need to pay?
You have
Dennis.
a lot of stress.
Dennis, let me tell you
A
something.
therapist
Yes, it is.
bill.
The why I mentioned culture
Yeah.
is because a lot of people derive this need to dominate others in the crudest way possible. Part of it is cultural. Part of it is your own inadequacies. Some of it are real. They've been imposed upon you. Some of them are things that you've simply picked up along the way because of the ambitions you have. The things you want to do. There are heights you want to reach. Now, the reason why in a workplace it is difficult to deal with is, I think Mary mentioned very clearly, people want to keep their jobs. And they do not want to challenge any authority figure for fear that they would lose their jobs.
Absolutely.
Okay? But you see, challenging an authority figure doesn't have to be confrontational, doesn't have to be ugly.
Yeah.
You can find a way in which you can actually have a conversation.
Without it being a shouting ugly
No,
match.
it doesn't have to be. And that person, with time, may even have an opportunity to listen. I'm saying this because it is not complicated to understand how bullies grow to be even bigger bullies. It's because they are allowed to flourish.
Yes.
There's no challenge. And challenge doesn't, again, have to be confrontational and ugly. It can just be by raising a question and raising it again. That is a challenge. Why am I saying this? We take examples from the top. When you have a leadership in a country that appears to be dictatorial, you do not know just how the consequences will be very far-reaching.
Yeah.
People take the cue, and everybody wants to fit into that. So anybody who's in a leadership position, no matter how low down that particular food chain, they expect to speak and people obey. Now, those are tendencies, but those tendencies can be challenged. The reason why you talk of a democracy is because it was long understood that if you have power that is unchecked, what the outcome will be harmful. Now, that has to be in the workplace. Because arguably, you all have the same goal, but arguably, the process that you want to follow may not be the same. Any setup where people are allowed to flourish and opinions are allowed to flow, it is not difficult to tell how that place...
It's not.
Yeah.
You will see.
Yeah, you see it immediately. And there are places, I mean, look at governments also. They're the biggest workplaces.
Yes.
Whether we're talking about the Kenyan one, you're talking about the American one, and we are all seeing in front of the world what is happening. There are places I know and you know. People say there's a toxic work culture.
Work environment, yeah.
Work environment. And you look at the people, those are the behaviors. That's why I tell clients, please do your due diligence. When you're looking for a job, it's both ways. They're doing due diligence on you, do the same on theirs. Let me just explain. There's 5, the typology of workplace bullying is 5 behaviors. And there's something called the Workplace Bullying Institute. They've actually come up with the 25 most common workplace bullying tactics.
For a moment, Mary, I thought that if you want to become a bully,
there's a school you can go to.
There's a school you go to.
how to become a fantastic
No,
bully.
they do a lot of research. They do a lot of
Cum laude
research. Yes, they have research, particularly the health sector in UK. They have research in Finland. But and I would urge people just to Google and find out those tactics, because I found I'd been bullied and I didn't realize. But the topology of 5 workplace bullying behaviors. 1, threat to your professional status, which is belittling your opinions. There's public professional humiliation, accusations regarding lack of effort, intimidating use of discipline or competency procedures. Then there's another one, threats to your personal standing, where people undermine your personal integrity. There's a very, destructive innuendo and sarcasm. They make inappropriate jokes, about the target, persistent teasing, name calling, and those kind of people don't understand. They make you very uncomfortable. Why are you referring to me or my face or my hair or my weight or my, when are you getting married? Those little innuendos and jokes, intimidation.
That dark boy.
That who is black like the sun, Those are personal standing and making jokes in front of clients and others. Then there's isolation, where people prevent you access to opportunities, physical or social. Have you ever had a job and you need budget and you're not being given budget? And they know you need budget, and they're withdrawing the budget, and they do that even in governments and certain ministries. I know. They withhold even information from you, and that is deliberate, keeping you out of the loop. Meetings are called, you're not being called into the meeting, and you're saying, I thought you're talking about my area.
And then somebody asks you, why didn't you attend the meeting? And you ask, which meeting?
Which meeting? Deliberate. That's isolation. Then there's overwork. That undue pressure, impossible deadlines, unnecessary destabilization, which a lot of people do. And then the last one, the fifth one, is destabilization. I know I suffered from isolation from the PS. I used to be told, you're friends with Treasury, you go to Treasury. I did not get budget for 2 years. I had to go direct. And I remember that year we were given, me and Kenya Railways, direct from Treasury when I had to go and see Esther Koimet and make the case. And then later they were saying, why don't you be like Mary? You said she went to Treasury and she got her own budget. Because I was given direct through the Exchequer, which has never happened. And the other one was destabilization, where they include failure to acknowledge your good work, allocation of meaningless tasks, removal of responsibilities. How people are sent on special assignment. You have an office and a desk is clean. There's nothing happening there.
Special assignment.
There is
at the end of the hall.
So there is a question that has been asked there by Nixon Hamisi, who is saying, I was bullied in primary school and high school due to my disability. I went through trauma and it lowered my self-esteem up to now. How can I come out of this situation?
Wow. I'm so sorry to hear that you were bullied, and it takes a very long. I would say I know it's not popular and I haven't gone. I'm afraid that when I go there, I'll open and cry mountains of rivers.
Which is okay.
But my children are really good, and the younger people are so open. I think therapy or getting a coach, somebody talk with. I speak a lot with clients, and you realize that everything comes, as you were saying, those deep emotions, they blind you, the mindset that you have. So speaking with people, trying to heal, because you do need to confront it and see what it was about and be able to face it. Definitely, those are some of the things that perhaps somebody could think of, but I'm not an expert when it comes to that. But it is the difficult thing.
But coping, how do you cope? Because this is one of the things that, just from the comments, we're looking at so many of them this morning, and just you either are one or know of one who's been in that position. But the truth of the matter is, Mary, that you need the job.
Yeah.
Look at the times in which we are in today, and somebody who's going to tell you, oh, stop it, buck up. Somebody's treating you badly in the office. Are you going to quit your job because somebody called you a name? So those are the real decisions that you have to deal with in that. How do you deal with that when you're dealing with an economic situation on one hand and you're dealing with this clear psychological problem, and in many cases physical problem as well? Because imagine the trauma of having to wake up every single day to go to a job where you know somebody is going to treat you in a certain way.
By the way,
every day.
When you're getting close to the office, you get water in your stomach. I used to sit, as you went, was the last year, I used to sit 5 minutes in the car to decide what I want to get up and go. Honestly, I know it. I think what City was saying, it was you, Dennis, who said, really approaching that person and having a discussion. But if that doesn't work, your HR hasn't worked, obviously, is getting together with your peers and saying, can we go to the boss's boss? And say we are having issues, we are not able to work, and state them clearly, having first talked to the person bullying you.
But you know, Mary, for someone to
But
do that,
those need courage. That courage of leadership is hard.
courage, and you need to have a very healthy self-esteem.
Yes.
You see, one of the things that bullying does, it undermines your self-esteem completely. Completely. So it's very easy for you to just sort of like move like a wind vane.
You even dress different. You know how you
everything about you actually stop caring about yourself.
Yes.
Yes. So and it can tell. But
good friends help. Good friends help.
No, good friends.
They don't.
They actually do, Mary. I agree with you.
They help. Good friends. Somebody to see another perspective.
I was going to say that they're not many. That's the problem.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And a good friend will say, look, this one, there's a way in which we can do this. Consider for a single second, an HR that makes people understand that there's an avenue for complaint and you can go to them.
Yes.
That's how it starts.
Yes.
If you have a problem, come. I have been in situations where I've been asked to help mediate when somebody has actually complained about another colleague because they felt that person
It's too much.
Yes, I know. And I'm talking about standard group.
It happens everywhere.
So it means HR took the step and took whatever complaint that was brought forth seriously, and they said, look, this is what we need to address. And the matter was addressed.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
But there's another situation where I had an HR of a company, big corporate company, call me and say, please talk to this lady. She's traumatized. Because HR couldn't help, because it was happening at that senior level. And literally she needed somebody to talk with. Then she understood actually she's being traumatized. She's being abused. This was actually abuse. But she had to see it herself through weeks of talking, coaching. And she said, actually, why am I taking this? I'm actually being abused. I think I need to go see a therapist. And with time, she actually saw a therapist. And after a long while, she resigned. She didn't need it because it was ridiculous.
Actually, what she did was she took control of her life.
She took
life,
control.
yes.
Yes.
City. In such situations, especially at workplaces, there is always a word that bosses really do not like. Why?
And how do
you give an order, someone asks why. Why should I do it?
Yes.
You shouldn't ask questions. Why shouldn't I ask questions? It is a word that even if you do your research, it is one word that those in authority don't know how to deal with.
It's like an affront.
They don't.
But Dennis,
Yes.
tell me, why do you think they do not know how to deal with it?
Because they've never thought that someone would stand and question.
Do you know that even when you're a full-grown adult, that you still have time to grow up?
Yes.
You
Growing up is
you still have time to mature.
a constant.
Emotionally.
Yes.
Emotionally.
When you grow up emotionally, you are able to take on views that you don't like. And you don't personalize it. You just someone has told you something about yourself which you haven't looked at in the same way.
Yes.
But you talk about people who personalize things. You're questioning them.
Yes, exactly.
You're questioning what they've told you.
Yes.
And I think it's also their sense of leadership comes from the old school that me as a leader, I need to know everything. No, my job is for you to work. I used to say, I don't work. Please, I have no work called me. It is you guys to work. I facilitate. What do you need? Training, tools, budget. What are your ideas? You're the experts in your job. I did that job many years ago. I do not have that technical expertise. But there's this, and I don't know why we're not moving fast enough, that we think the leaders should know everything and tell us what to do.
It's a good thing you've asked that question. Let me ask you, why do you think people are quick and they find it easy to abrogate their own authority to somebody else? And why do you think people do that?
Yes, now their own insecurity.
We don't like to take ownership and accountability. We don't.
If something goes wrong, you don't want to be the one
if
to
you look at
hear
the
it.
Yes. If you look at the symptom of what we have, look at how we as Kenyans are quick to blame. There's a problem.
It's the police.
Your mind starts looking for who do we blame for this problem. Yes. And so you never see yourself like the criticism we keep talking of here of, say, the presidency. And say, but
what are we doing?
The citizens don't want to understand. They refuse to look at it. They said, no, it is not us. The president. And I said, no, you do have a role.
You get the president you deserve.
Yes.
Yeah. As I think about these things, we're talking about, very clear-cut issues at the workplace. But then look at how this conversation then now touches on other aspects.
Yes.
And then we deal with so many issues all the time, whereby we ask, what's the problem? Because we've asked questions. Where's our value system? Where did the rain start beating us? Where did this and this happen? Because it will solve a problem in the family, it will solve a problem in school, it'll solve a problem at the workplace, it'll solve a problem in organizations, it'll solve a problem in governments, it'll solve a problem in the world.
Honestly, absolutely.
Is this not where we should be going? Because we're asking, where is the problem? And I see this, the persona, the character, how we deal with issues, how we accept or reject certain things. Isn't that really the bane of what we are looking towards?
The respect,
world problems.
Yeah, the respect that everybody has an opinion. I do not necessarily have to be right. What you're saying, what's my perspective? And I respect you and say, okay, yeah, we could try that. That's your opinion. That's your experience. That respect for each other to know we are actually equal. Just because you have this title called this, when we walk out of that door, we are exactly the same before God.
You know, the issue
that's true, values.
The issue of inadequacies is something that in an African Kenyan setting is almost unacceptable in leadership. A leader, by their very existence, cannot be inadequate. Yes. And yet they're human beings. And there's no human being who is not inadequate. You see? So when you look at the influence, again, from the top and the leadership in any setup, okay, you cannot run away from the responsibility that you as an individual have. You have a responsibility. And in a workplace, the first responsibility is to yourself. Now, again, when you abrogate that responsibility for yourself and somehow someone else is supposed to take care of it, they have themselves to take care of. How well do you think they're going to take care of your interests? When I look at, I was thinking as we're talking, I was thinking of people I went with to school, some of whom were bullies. Some even rose to very high positions in the government. Whenever people talk, it's as though we are still in school.
It affected them and shaped them.
It's until you say, guys, we
left.
We're a little ancient now.
60 years ago.
Yes, so these things, can we just...
No.
If I look at the depth of that problem, it tells me that this is a discussion that must be had in even greater depth than
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And you know why City? You remember what Maya Angelou says, and we talk about emotional intelligence. In emotional intelligence, people will forget what you did, people will forget what you said, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Because we're emotional creatures. Somebody told you, you'll never get married. All of you, you're very ugly. You will remember that auntie for the next 40 years.
Oh my God.
Who told you?
Yes, I went to her funeral. Sure, and that's the effect that it has on you.
Yes.
But then these, and that's why I think conversations like this are extremely important. We don't even realize the import of it because you look and say, okay, for goodness sake, Spice FM, you're talking about bullying this morning for what? But look at what it has elicited this morning, and look at what we're hearing, and look at what people are saying. This affects everything else that you do. Who you're connected with, who you speak to, who you listen to, how you operate, what you do,
how you relate to other people.
How you relate.
And we're asking what the problems of the world are, and this is where it starts, isn't it?
And look at what good leadership, because that Kenyan one is never good leader. Look at people like Mandela. He didn't say I knew everything, or Obama.
No.
You know, that ability to say, let me listen to this person. You have something. Absolutely, fully agree.
You're referring to evolved human beings.
Evolved.
Sorry.
You just had to,
But it's involvement. What are you saying? That, values. Think about it. Be deep. Then you evolve. You're moving beyond thinking it's just about you and my view and my leadership.
I think it's a question of having the ability to just sit down and talk and understanding that we all don't know everything. That junior could have the solutions to the problems that you see.
Most of the time they do, by the way.
And that would only happen if we listen.
And really listen. Actively listen. Most of us listen to talk.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
They say, those who study psychology, that the key thing here is to listen to what is not being said.
Absolutely. There's a lot that's
unspoken.
I mean, I think this is the first of many that should happen. And very glad that we're able to start off with that this morning and even end the week with that. Executive Coach Mary Mukindia has been with us this morning and opening our eyes to some conversations that need to happen, no matter how uncomfortable they are. But really, it's at the very it's at the very base of some of the things that we look for in terms of answers, whether it's individuals or governments. So thank you for being here this morning. Really great to have had you here. And thank you for joining us to do that this morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.